Welcome back to another Motel Coach training video. Today, we're going to be diving into some front desk training. We're going to do role plays for real life scenarios. We're going to check out guests, we're going to handle complaints, we're going to respond to reviews. All of that day-to-day activity for a typical motel or small hotel. Let's dive in. For the lesson today, I've got GuestPoint Property Management System opened here on the left, and I've got a list of roleplay activities on the right. I'm going to go through each one and we're going to talk about what action to take and how to coordinate with other departments and document your steps as you go. The first step we're going to take when we start our day is we're going to check any activity from the previous night. Often you'll get voicemails from in-house guests or guests that are on arrival with issues or requests that they need done, and a lot of these ones are fairly urgent in nature. We're going to do a quick check through of our email, make sure that there's nothing that needs to be actioned straight away. We're then going to move on. We're going to check our after hours key drop box, and we want to try and get all of the guests in-house that have left checked out of the system. We do this so that when we start to create our housekeeping room lists, the housekeeping room report will show to the housekeepers which guests have already checked out. This makes it easier for them to do their job. We've now checked out all of the guests that have left their key in the after hours safe, and we've also checked out all of the guests that have come through reception. Now we want to start allocating our arrival rooms. We want to do this via our GuestPoint reports. And I'm going to start on the reservations tab. I'm going to look at the check-in date for today. And then I'm going to go to bookings and I'm going to preview. Once I'm in this report, I can either print it and highlight all of the key requests, or I can do it as I go. You've got the option as well to download it as a PDF or in Excel. Whatever you're used to is best. So I've now downloaded that report so I can see if there's any special requests. The second report I like to have a quick look at is the housekeeping forecast. So I'm going to just put in for the 12th and the 12th again, so just for today, and I'm going to preview that one. And I'm looking at this report here. So this is the number of adults and number of children in each room. So if I go down the list, I can straight away see that room 1 has 2 adults and 1 child. There may be a note for that room saying, can I please have a rollaway bed? But this quick check will identify any rooms which have too many people in it by default. So we're going to have a quick look at the Queen room, number 1. So if I go into this room here, so I can see this is part of a group as well. So I'm going to open up room 1, and I can see that there is internal booking notes requested for a rollaway bed for the 3-year-old son. One thing I like to often do with this sort of booking, if I've got a room that needs an extra bed, I'll try and allocate it to a room that already has that extra bed in it. That saves the housekeepers shuffling a bed to the room. It also avoids damaging walls by moving rollaway beds around, and often the guest will have better satisfaction with that room type. Because this guest has a younger son, they might like a lower bed. So I would generally make a note, I would shift the guest into the bigger room type which has the extra bed, and I would communicate with John on arrival and just confirm that he's happy with a normal bed and not a rollaway bed. So with this reservation here, we can open the booking. So we've currently got them in a queen room. We could do an upgrade to a queen twin room. That's going to give them 2 larger beds, and the additional cost for that room is not going to be much different versus just bringing an extra rollaway bed. So look at it always from the perspective, if you've got availability, you can do things like this to really improve your guest satisfaction. And when the guest arrives, you can communicate with them. Let them know that you've given them a complimentary upgrade to a bigger room that you think they're going to be a lot more comfortable in. Once we've done this upgrade, we want to communicate it with the rest of the team. If you're in a small motel, this is not going to be so important, but as you work in larger properties, communicating through booking notes and internal notes will really help run a smooth motel. So I'm going to just put a note saying, we've upgraded the guest due to them needing an extra bed, and then I'm putting my initials and we're going to put the date after it. That just indicates who's made the upgrade and the date that it's been performed. So that one's all complete, and we're going to save that one down. The other thing you'll notice with this is if another staff member sees that this room's been moved and they actually need that room type, by putting this note in, they're going to understand why the room's been moved. And there's one last small note to make, and this is a little bit counterintuitive to what we've just done. Sometimes with group reservations, you've got to be careful when you give one room a complimentary upgrade. Sometimes that will create dissatisfaction within the group. Generally, it's not going to be a problem, but it's just something to keep in your mind when you are upgrading an individual room within a larger group booking. So we've saved John's booking down, and now we've gone back to our booking report for today. So this is going to show us any notes that we need to review and action. So the first one is for John Smith. So that's the one we've already handled for the rollaway bed request. So we're going to move down to Tran Michael. Mr. Tran likes room 8 or 5 due to bed configuration. So I can see he's currently in room 5 already. Now, that's all perfect. When a guest has a specific room that they like, and I would edit the reservation, and I would mark it do not move. I'm putting the note why the guest wants that room, and I'm marking it as do not move, and I'm putting my initials so that the other staff members know why and who has put that room as do not move. We're going to save that one down. Going to go back to our arrivals, and we've got Peter Lutton. So customer card note, previous stay, there was hair in his shower. Going back to this one, and we're going to put a note in his housekeeping. I'm just going to make a note saying extra clean bathroom, no hair please, previous guest complaint, and then again my initials and the date, just so that other staff members know who's made that comment. And I'm then going to save that reservation down. And we're going to go back again to our arrivals. We're going to continue the process. Next guest we're going to look at is Sarah Bennett. She's got a customer card note that the guest didn't like the layout of the room, or they weren't happy with the bed in room 12. And we've got the initials from the 8th of the 10th. So we're going to do something special for this guest just to try and get them back on board. And we're also going to check the room we put them into ourselves as the manager. We want to look at, is the bed comfortable? And we want to make sure that the room layout is different to the room layout in room 12. So we're possibly going to look at giving them a complimentary upgrade and maybe a small gesture of goodwill in the room. We're going to upgrade Sarah into the Queen Suite. We don't want to update the rate, we want to keep the rate the same. And we're going to put a note in the booking. VIP wine in room due to previous issue. And complimentary upgrade provided. Again with our name and date, or initials and date, just so that other staff know what's happening. So if another staff member on reception is doing this check-in, they've got a flag basically saying, this guest has had a previous issue, I have complimentary upgraded them, and there will be a wine in their room. So you're not going to necessarily tell them that the wine is in the room, but you might say, welcome back, Sarah. I know you've had a few issues during your last stay and we'd love to offer you a complimentary upgrade, or my managers put in a complimentary upgrade for this stay. Please drop back to reception or call us if you need anything or have any questions during your stay. We've saved Sarah's reservation now. Let's look at the next one. Mr. Stevens. We've got a note here saying he's smashed the TV during his stay on August 17, 2025. Now, you can see straight away that this guest note doesn't fully inform us of the situation. Was this a mistake or an accident, and has the guest paid for it on departure of the last stay? If the guest didn't pay for it and it wasn't a mistake, I would be looking at blacklisting this guest and turning them away from staying with us again, or talking with them and requesting that they put in a security deposit and pay for the damage caused last stay. You don't want to be accepting a guest back into the property who's caused problems in his previous stay. So when you're putting in customer notes or guest profile notes, make sure it's clear, and make it clear for someone who's never been on site before. Assume that the relief manager is going to be checking in Mr. Stevens and they don't know anything about the property. Your notes should be clear and inform them and make them able to make a decision. We're going to assume the guest has made an honest mistake, has damaged the TV, and did cover the cost on departure. So that forms the completion of us allocating the rooms and making notes as well as we're going. The next step of the day is really critical, and we need to get this done promptly before our housekeepers arrive for shift. So we're going to allocate the room cleans for today for each housekeeper. So we want to click on Management, Housekeeping, and Today's Schedule. We're then going to expand up housekeepers and general notes, and you check against your roster which housekeepers are allocated today. At this stage of the day, you're also trying to get a final picture. Are my housekeepers going to be able to cover the work that is required today? So we've selected our 2 housekeepers, and now if we minimize that screen again, we can then select the rooms that need to be cleaned, and we can allocate the housekeeper to that room. So you can do that by clicking on the bottom button. So this room is a departure clean, and we're going to select Amelia Rogers to do that one. Room 2 is a departure clean as well. We're going to select Amelia again. One thing I like to do is allocate your housekeepers within a small area so that they're not traveling around the motel a lot. You'll find that they might have room 1 might depart at 7 a.m. and they clean that room, and then if you allocate a room on the other side of the motel, that might be the next room that they can clean. So they're walking across the whole property just to clean one room, and then room 2 might then become vacant and they have to clean that one next. So they're doing maximum travel. So I try and keep them in an area, or if you're in a bigger hotel, this is even more important because often the lift will make up a large amount of time in their day. So by putting them on one level or allocating them the minimum number of floors within the hotel, you'll minimize their time wasted traveling between rooms. So we're going to continue through. So we've got a lot of departures today, or a lot of depart cleans. Some rooms may have been allocated from a previous day. You might have had room 10 checked out a few days earlier, but you didn't have the staff to clean it, so you've moved it on to this day. We're going to allocate the next room to Amelia. And we're then going to just move across to Mandy, and we'll allocate the next few rooms to her. You also have the choice to allocate rooms as a priority, and we can also allocate the rooms as a stayover, a linen change only, or a deep clean. These options are all set up in the back office of GuestPoint, in the management section, we can actually update these sections ourselves. So if, as the motel manager or front desk agent, I'm doing deep cleans every quarter, I can put in a deep clean section, or I could maybe put in a few different types of clean. It might be skirting boards. I could put that in as a clean, and I can allocate that to a housekeeper once a quarter, for example. We've then got the estimated time and actual time. So once the housekeeper has cleaned this room, I can put in the actual time, and that will help us track the housekeeping performance. So we've allocated all of our rooms today, but let's have a quick look through and see if there's anything we need to go through from a request perspective. So we've got the guest, Peter Luton, in room 9. In their previous stay, as we talked about earlier, they found hairs in the bathroom. So this is where we've put the notes, and it's now coming up in our housekeeping report. So we'll then print the housekeeping report for Amelia Rogers in this case, and her page will have a note saying, extra clean the bathroom, please no hair. This guest has had a complaint previously, so we really need to get this one right. I would always take this a step further. You don't have a second chance when you've had a guest with an issue already. You really need to get it right. The first step, I'm going to talk with this housekeeper on arrival at their shift. I'm going to say, hi Amelia, your guest in room 9 has previously had issues during their stay. I really want you to focus on this room. And I'm actually going to highlight where the notes are for the housekeeper. It just really emphasizes it by bringing it up to them in person when they arrive for their shift. And then the final step is I'm going to inspect that room myself. So any rooms where you've previously had issues, or if guests have complained about something within a room, I'm going to personally go and check that room. If you're in a larger property, it's not always possible, but I think generally you've always got time for a couple of rooms a day, and these ones can be always emphasized as a priority. We've allocated the housekeepers the rooms that they need to clean today. We're now going to print a housekeeping room list for each of them. This just shows their tasks for the day. So if we click print and summary cleaners report, this one here will have the rooms Amelia Rogers is cleaning, and you can see again, so we've got the notes for that guest. So extra clean. So this one is the small handover I'm going to talk about with Amelia. Moving down, you've got Mandy on the second page, and she's got her rooms and other general tasks. This is really good to track the rooms for the housekeepers. It's dated. They can take it at the start of the shift and return it at the end of the shift, and I'm going to sign off with them. I'm going to say, how did you go with your rooms today? Did you get everything done? And do you have any notes about any of the rooms? Was there any maintenance issues or things that you think we could improve in those rooms? Once we've printed the housekeeper report for each individual housekeeper, we're then going to print a detailed report for the whole property. This is the master copy we're going to keep today at reception, and we're going to use that to track all of the key activities. If any rooms need to go on priority, or if I need to check in with the housekeeper to see how she's going with a certain room, for example. Here's a quick snapshot of the housekeeper's cleaning report, which we're going to keep at reception. This has all of the information for the property. You've got specific notes, you've got which cleaners allocated, and whether it's a priority or not. We've finalized our housekeeper room lists, and they're now ready for the housekeepers to come and collect them when they start their shift. As we're finalizing that, guest in room 12, Mr. Smith, comes to check out. We can see that he's got a balance still of $490. To take the payment for this room, we're going to quickly check the booking notes. And I can see here it says all charges to new company account. But no company's been added to this booking yet. So we're going to click contact details. and we're going to start typing the company, and it will automatically populate if there's been that company in the system previously. So we've now added that company to Mr. Smith's booking, so we can go ahead and click checkout. So this balance here will get sent to his debtor account. So I can click send to debtor, and new company will appear under debtor. I'm going to select both charges, and I'm going to save that. And now his departure balance has gone from $490 to 0, and I can click checkout. Once you check out the guest, their room will also be flagged as dirty as well. So once we've checked out the guest, Mr. Smith, we're going to quickly jump onto our room list. And we can see Mr. Smith's been allocated to Amelia Rogers. I'm going to go onto her room list, and I'm going to highlight that room or tick it as departed for her, just so that she knows that she can access that room and clean that one first. There's no need for her to try and clean rooms that may still be in house if we've got a room that's already departed. The housekeepers have arrived, and we're making really good progress with the rooms, when all of a sudden one of them says, "Room 10 smells strongly of cigarettes." Now, whenever I get an issue like this, the first thing I like to do is get some good photos of the room. Are there any remains from the cigarettes? Is it clear that the guest has been smoking in the room and not just smoking a lot outside and bringing that smell inside on their clothes, for example? Once you've got good photos and you've made some notes on the incident, communicate with the guest involved. Make it clear to them the policy that they've agreed to on check-in. Doing this timestamps the incident, and it also clarifies everything for the guest. It means that they're less likely to argue with you or fight against the issue. To finalize this incident, we're going to put guest profile notes, so that if this guest stays again and their profile is added to the reservation, it's going to bring up the smoke in the room. So we've got the date, we've got what the guest did, we've got what we did, we've charged them $250, and the communication that we've sent to the guest. We want to make sure that it's clear for other staff members what's occurred and what we've done to rectify the problem. We're then going to save that one down. The next task we've got is one of the guests on arrival for today has requested an 11 a.m. check-in for room 7. So we're going to open up the reservation. We don't have any special requests for Emma, so because she's requested an early check-in, we've got the choice. We can say no, or we could maybe say we don't have the room ready at 11, but we could do 12 or 1. Where possible, however, I like to accept these sorts of requests. I feel it builds a lot of goodwill with the guest, and it's going to really incentivize them to come back and stay with you regularly. So what can we do? We've got a few options. We can leave the guest in room 7, and we can request the housekeeper to clean it as a priority. If we get the room cleaned as a priority, we want to make it do not move, and we want to put a note here. If we're doing an early check-in before we've printed the housekeeping room list, we might also put it in housekeeping notes, and then that way they're going to see it in their notes as well. I would generally put the time as well. That just makes it clear for any other staff that are involved. Save that one down. Alternatively, what's often easier than rushing a room is to shuffle and move them into a room that's already clean from the day before. So I can move her into room 8 and save that one down. And that way I don't have to disturb the housekeepers from their current job. One thing to note, if you've got a room that wasn't occupied in previous days, I would get that room re-inspected, or I would inspect that room myself. Often when a room's been vacant for a few days or longer, you'll start to get dirt and dust building up again. One of the housekeepers has now reported that the shower in room 12 is leaking. We've got two choices here. If we can fix it, or the on-site manager can fix it, we can get the room straight back in service for tonight. If the room can't be fixed, we're going to have to put the room out of service. The first step I would take, if you're not going to fix it yourself and it's not going to be turned around quickly, you need to get the room out of service. You don't want to be reselling the room if it's not in a lettable condition. So we can do that by moving the bookings in that room and then putting it in out of service. Before we move any rooms, we always want to check, does this room have any specific requirements? So we can check that. So we've got room 12. If we click additional information, we can see that there's no specific requests. It is part of a group, so we can move that one to 14. If it's part of a group or a family booking, you'd always want to still try and keep that group and family near each other. We're not going to recalculate our rates, and we're going to save that reservation. And then the same for black. You always want to make sure that there's no specific reservation requirements. In theory, if there's special requests behind a room, it should be put as do not move. But if rooms haven't been allocated and it hasn't been marked do not move yet, you don't want to be moving it to the wrong room by mistake. So that space is now clear. So we can right click and we put new out of service. If you have a leaking shower and you're not sure how to fix it yourself, I'd always still recommend go to the room when you get the report from the housekeeper, take a video of the leaking shower, and then you can send that to the plumber so that they know exactly what they're dealing with. So we're going to put down leaking shower. I'll put my initials. If you have an active manager on site or the owner of the property likes to keep up to date, I'd also recommend we're going to put a note on the out of service. We're going to put the issue there is, so there's a leaking shower. We're going to put the action we've taken, so there's a plumber coming tomorrow, and I've just got my initials so that anyone else who deals with this case knows who originally created it. And then we're going to click save. And when you've got a room out of service that you're not directly fixing, I'd also recommend you extend it a little bit further than you need it initially. Especially if you're coming up to a fully sold out date or near fully sold out date, I'd be taking a room there and putting it out of service in advance, just in case you can't get the room back into service. Now, we've extended our out of service. Let's imagine Friday the 14th of November is 95%. We've only got 1 or 2 rooms left. In this instance, if the issue with the room isn't critical and it's not a health and safety matter, I'm still going to look to sell the room. I'm most likely going to sell it as a phone or a walk-in reservation where I can let the guest know at the time of booking that we've had an issue with this room, it's only minor, would you still like to book in? That way you can maximize your motel's revenue without risking too much in terms of your guest reviews. We've received a call from Michael Tran. he wants to cancel his booking. Unfortunately, his booking is inside the cancellation window, and we can double check this one by clicking print at the top of his reservation and confirmation. That's going to show you what he has received when he made the reservation. And you can see here his cancellation policy indicates 24 hours notice required. So we're then going to close this window down. So because he's got a 24-hour cancellation policy, I would be charging him for one night of this booking. And then the second night would not be charged. If the booking is a non-refundable or prepaid rate, depending on the exact terms and conditions, he would likely pay the full stay amount. You need to weigh up a little bit with your guests. If they're regulars and they're staying all the time and they're booking direct, I would be a bit more flexible with them. You know that they're going to continue to stay with you. If you charge them when they cancel all of the time, they might not continue to stay with you. That's just a business decision that you need to be continually evaluating with each guest. So now we want to click cancel the reservation, and we want to ensure we send a cancellation confirmation email. Whenever I do cancel a guest's reservation, I always like to put in the reason for cancellation. If it's just a general cancellation due to a change of plans, I would just put something like that. But I could also put in a specific note or a reason why they've cancelled. If it's a family member loss or their car's been in a crash or something, you're going to get a lot of different reasons, and you're always going to have to evaluate what you do with each one. But I think putting the note down is always a best practice, and it helps the communication internally with your team. So we're now going to cancel that reservation, and we're going to send the guest the email. Once we cancel that reservation, we then need to charge that guest. Because their reservation's not checked in, they've got no room charges or payments posted on their account. So we can click search, and we're going to type Tran. We're going to bring that reservation up, and we're going to go into room account. So his balance is $9.90. So let's assume that he's paying for his room himself and it's on Amex. So we're going to put in a room charge. $445, and you'll see here that his departure balance has actually increased, but it's not correct. When you've got a cancelled booking, the departure balance won't add up correctly. So we're then going to click make payment and American Express, and we're going to save the payment, and we're going to save that reservation. So that reservation's now all finished. We've now got a reservation request coming through. Nina Patel would like to book a reservation for the upcoming Friday and Saturday. It's just for one person, and she'd like a quiet room and preferably something on the top floor. I can see Nina also has a mild feather allergy, so she doesn't want feather pillows or blankets, and she's left her mobile number for us to contact her back and finalize the booking. So we're going to jump into GuestPoint, and I'd always recommend, as soon as you get a reservation call, put the reservation into the system. If you don't have all of the information, you can put the reservation as tentative, but the last thing you want to do is to not put a reservation in and then to sell out and not be able to take that guest. It's a really bad experience for Nina if we were to do that. So if she wants to book in on Friday or Saturday, rather than trying to sell her the cheapest room here, the queen room, we're going to initially start and say our quietest rooms are our queen suites. They're right at the back of the property. Put in her details. So we can then quote her. So she's staying for 2 nights. We can quote her the $195, and if she comes back and says, I'm looking for something a little bit cheaper, When Nina comes back to you with the price, you can say, Nina, we've put you in the Queen Suite room because it's our quietest room we have. You're going to have such a good night's rest. If that doesn't convince her, then you can start to let her know, well, we do have the Queen room available. It's a little bit closer to the road, but it's still a really quiet room. By taking this approach of selling the feature that she wants, rather than offering her the cheapest room, we're going to make more money for our motel, but we're also trying to sell the features that the guests want, so they're going to have a really good experience. Once we've finalized the price and the room type with Nina, and we've entered all of her information in here, we're then going to come across to the notes section. The first section I want to look at is the guest profile notes. I'm going to put double asterisks here, and I'm going to say guest has a feather allergy. I'm then going to put another note, which is guest likes quiet room away from the main road or upstairs, and I'm then going to initialize it, my name and the date. Moving to the guest profile notes section, we've got one note for their allergy and one note for their room preference type. We're then going to move across to housekeeping notes, and we're going to copy a lot of the notes. So no feather pillows, covers or toppers, and please deep clean and extra vacuum. And I'm going to put my initials and the date. On the day, I want to have a quick meeting with the housekeeper just to follow through and make sure that they know exactly what they're doing with that room. And I'm going to then check that room myself because it's got an allergen or allergy request. Internal booking notes, we've got pay on arrival, and we've got my initials and the date again. So that shows who's created the booking and how they're going to pay on the day. The booking source is telephone, and that's everything there. So we'd enter their credit card. You'll notice here that there's no chance to send an email confirmation. So once we put an email in here, once we put that email in, then we'll get the confirmation option to send an email out to the guest. So that's all set. We don't have any templates in the demo version of GuestPoint set up yet. And so we've got her booking all in place. And if we don't have payment information yet for Nina's booking, we can mark this one as a tentative one. And that's going to show up just with the dotted line around it. And then once we follow up with Nina and get a credit card, we could mark that one as a confirmed reservation by unclicking the tentative section. That reservation's all confirmed. The next inquiry we've got, or task we've got to do, is we've got a bus group coming in today for over 50s, and we need to process a payment for their accommodation on the credit card. So for this group booking, we've got a total of 14 rooms staying and the balance of $4,705. So we're going to go into group account, and we're going to click make payment, and we've got the American Express on file already, and we're going to go 4705, and we're going to save the payment. So that will bring their group departure balance to 0. When you're running a motel in a real life scenario, if you've got bigger groups, you want to have specific payment terms. That protects you if the group decides to cancel on short notice. Then you would charge them for a percentage of the stay, or it may already be a prepaid deposit up to a certain percentage. The next request we've got is Carlos Reyes has requested to extend his reservation by 1 night. So I can see here that the room he's currently in has a guest in it the following night. So we're going to double click on that guest booking, and we note that there's no special requests. So straight away, we can move that one to another room. And then we're going to double click on Mr. Reyes' booking. Before we extend a reservation, we want to make sure that we can extend it. If it's been booked through booking.com or Expedia, we would want to create a new reservation and collect his information and payment details separately from the existing reservation. If it's been booked by a third party, like a travel agent or a corporate travel manager, we would need to contact them and ask them to send an updated authority to extend his booking, because they may not have authority to pay for 2 nights. They may only have authority to pay for 1. If Mr. Reyes has called through and it's a telephone reservation, then we can go here and click 2 nights. And then as soon as you do that, I'm then going to confirm with him the rate for the second night. You never want to leave any gaps in information where guests might not be aware and might not be happy with the cost, especially if the second night becomes more expensive due to high demand. So we're then going to save that reservation down. And you can even put in, which I find quite helpful, "12th of the 11th," and then just your initials. That way, anyone else on the team knows that the guest requested to extend on what date and who did the extension. We're then going to save that one down, and that request is now confirmed. When you've got a guest who is already in-house and they're due to check out, let's assume that Mr. Reyes checked in on the 11th of November and he was due to check out on the 12th of November. If you extended his reservation because he's requested to stay another night, once the housekeepers are already working, you need to communicate with them that that reservation has now changed to 2 nights and that they no longer need to clean it, or maybe it would just be a stayover clean. We've allocated all of the rooms and the housekeepers are almost finished for the day and we're preparing for check-ins. We're going to click on Management and we're going to print our arrival forms for the day. So we're going to click Print Today's and we're going to print by guest. When we print by guest, it will sort alphabetically so that we can find a guest when they arrive at reception. If you print by room number, it won't be sorted in a way that you can find the guest's details. So we're then going to click Print. I generally leave printing my arrival forms till a little bit further into the day, because it means that if any rooms are changed, I'm not having to reprint a arrival or registration card for that guest. The arrival form is a really important step in the check-in process. Guests can put in all of their key details, and you can also have terms and conditions specifically made for your property. Guests read them, date, and sign it. It's a small agreement between you and your guest, and it helps to remove any issues during stays. We've received some reviews today, some on booking.com and one on Google. They're not great reviews, but it's always really important to respond, whether they're positive or negative reviews. How you respond to the review shows all of your future guests. What sort of motel am I staying at? Am I staying at a motel where the owner's really proactive and he's fixing anything that breaks and he really cares about his guest? Or am I staying at a dilapidated motel where they don't really care anymore? How you respond to reviews will directly generate more bookings if you do a good job. So let's look at the first review. It's a bad review overall. 3 out of 10 is really going to bring down your score, your guest review score for the month on booking.com. And one of booking.com's major ranking factors is your review score. So you really need to look, what is the reason behind the bad stay and how can I fix it? If you think the review is a bit unfair, there's not much you can do at this stage to get the review removed unless it's really breaching booking.com's terms of service. So if we go here, so disappointed overall, nothing we can do about that. The room looked fine in the photos but felt outdated in person, bed was uncomfortable, and the aircon barely worked. This is pretty major work if you're going to get this room fixed, if this guest review is accurate. The first step I would take is look at the things that you can fix on the lowest cost. So the first thing I would check is the bed uncomfortable? I would go and check the bed, lie on the bed, and even consider blocking the room out of service and sleeping on the bed for one night to get a feel for how comfortable it is. Can you temporarily improve the room by putting in a mattress topper? The next section, the air conditioner. It's not working and it's making a loud buzzing sound. To get this fixed, you're going to need to get an air conditioning electrician. It's not a job that you can just cheaply fix yourself. One step I would take is I would look at my filters and I'd definitely clean them as a minimum. But also, if you've got rooms that are starting to have issues like this, put these rooms as your last let rooms. If 70% of your motel has good air conditioning and the other rooms don't, look to really prioritize selling the rooms that are in good condition, and all of these rooms with issues, leave them as your last let. Once you get an issue with your air conditioning like this, try and schedule in a replacement air conditioner or a service for your existing unit. Air conditioning is such a key factor in motel accommodation that this is just going to continually generate bad reviews. The last comment around the reception not providing any help. This shows either that the customer service team don't care enough to do the right thing, or they don't have the tools available to them to resolve the problem. Look at training the whole team, run through scenarios and what you want them to do in each scenario to make a service recovery. If you're getting consistent issues like this around customer service and it's always the same staff member, you need to directly talk with them and pull them aside and talk about what they're doing and how they can improve. If they're not willing or they're not taking the right steps to improve, you need to consider moving them out of the front desk department, and whether they move to another department which is not facing guests, or you move them out of the team altogether. This is how I would respond to Jason's review. I start off by thanking him for taking the time to provide the feedback. This feedback, as hard as it is to read about your own property, it's really valuable. It's specific feedback about issues in the room. What you'll find is there's so many people staying at your motel, and maybe only 1 out of every 10 might leave a review. A lot of other guests just won't stay again if the room is not good. At least Jason's being upfront and he's telling us what's wrong with the stay. I'm then going to apologize. The issues he's faced during this stay, it's certainly not to our normal standard. And then I've asked him, without directly asking, for a second chance to get him back as a guest. So then in my private email to him, I'm possibly going to look at some sort of service recovery. I'm going to say, "Dear Jason, we'd love to have you back. I know your last stay wasn't up to standard, and it's certainly not up to our standard. I'd like to offer you this, and I hope you'd take us up on our discounted stay, and we'll take it as a real opportunity to get your trust back in our motel." Now, not every review is going to be worth giving a service recovery for. You might get a review that's just false. But if the review's genuine and the guest has stayed with you, often it's worth trying to do a little bit for a guest to try and get them back for a second chance. Moving down, we've got Leanne. She's had a review of 6 out of 10, and she's had a mixed experience during this stay. The location and staff were good, check-in was slow, and our room wasn't ready at the stated time. The bathroom was clean, but the towels smelled a bit musty. Wasn't terrible, just needs some polish. The next review on booking.com by Leanne, 6 out of 10. It's a tough review, but it's also very genuine. You can see that she's listed out some great positives. Staff were polite. We can certainly follow up with the team and just thank them for their good work on this one. Check-in was slow and the room wasn't ready at the stated time. We need to look further into this. Why wasn't the room ready? Were there any other options for the team on the front desk? Were there rooms that the guest could have been shuffled into or upgraded into? Make sure that your front desk team have all of the tools to make sure the guest experience is always good. If a room's not ready, are there upgrades that can be given at no cost? Or is there something that you can do, like a free coffee or wine in the bar? Small things like that will really help your review score. The next thing you need to identify is, why weren't the rooms clean? Do some digging and work out why. Small things like that shouldn't be generating bad review scores. This one here looked like it probably started off an average stay. If you avoided this, maybe the musty towels wouldn't have been such a big factor in creating a bad review. The next one is musty towels. Let's just go into the rooms and we're going to check a few rooms and we're going to smell the towels and see if they're musty. If they're musty, maybe we need to look at how we're storing them. Is the place ventilated, or is there some damp building up? Get these small things right. Act like you're the guest. If a bed is not comfy, or if a towel's musty, or if an air conditioner's noisy, spend a night in that room and get a feel for what the guest is experiencing. This is how I'm going to respond to Leanne's review. I'm going to start by thanking her for putting the feedback up. The same as with Jason, this feedback's really valuable for us and we need to genuinely appreciate the feedback. The next thing, I'm going to highlight the positive things that this guest has found during her stay. Future guests that are reading about it will read these positive things as well. The more consistently you have positive comments in your review scores, it creates an overall feel for your future guests. So when I put, I'm delighted to see that the staff were welcoming, the location was great, and the bathroom was clean, that's a really positive sign for a future guest. We then want to take some accountability for the things that weren't quite right to show all of the future guests that we're always working on improving our property. If there's something wrong, we're going to try and fix it, and next stay is going to be really great. This positive attitude, even if you can't fix everything, just goes so far to giving reassurance to future guests that you care about the motel that you're managing. I like to also follow up guests like this that have had like a mixed stay. I'm often going to just reach out to them and say, sorry to hear about the issues during this stay. If you stay with us again, I'd love to offer you this. If they book through booking.com on the first time and you offer them a direct booking incentive, maybe $50 off, you're basically going to be balanced out. If they book direct and they don't pay that commission, any discount you give them will basically match out with the commission they would have taken anyway. So it's a good way to get them back. They save money and you're not much worse off by the time you discount them and you take off the commission. The last review we're going to look at is by Dylan, and 3 out of 5 on Google. So it's not a great overall review score, but there's a lot of positives in the review overall. So decent for the price, room was tidy, and checkout was smooth. But we could hear noise from the hallway at night, and the TV remote didn't work. Staff seemed friendly, and the place has potential with a few small fixes. So in response to this review, as with the other reviews, I'm going to thank him for taking the time to review it. I'm going to highlight some of the positive things he's talked about, and I'm going to take accountability for fixing some of the issues he's had during his stay. Overall, this shows that you're doing all of the right things for future guests so that it will incentivize them to make a booking with your motel. We're starting to get some check-ins and we've had a few guest requests. we've got Julie Foster wants an extra guest added to her booking. So the first thing I'm always going to do before I amend a booking is I'm going to confirm some of the details with that guest. I'm going to make sure that her mobile number matches up with Julie Foster's mobile number. I don't want other people amending a guest's booking. So I'm then going to go to contact details and I'm going to click new person and I'm going to add in the second guest. This one here is going to be James Foster and I'm going to add a new person. Whenever you're getting a request for a change in a reservation or you're getting a new booking, you're always continually cross-checking things. If I add an extra guest to that room, is it going to be a suitable room for them still? Because Julie's booked into a twin room, adding that extra guest is going to work well. The next request I've got is Thomas Walker is requesting a ground floor room due to mobility. So we're going to go to Mr. Walker's booking and we're going to move him up. And I can see here that we've got no other twin rooms on the ground floor. So in order for us to move this reservation, we're going to have to shuffle some of the bookings. So we want to find a room that's on the ground floor, twin room that's not yet checked in. So I can see here the guest Adamson. We're going to double click, make sure that there's no guest notes indicating a ground floor request. And we can then shuffle that guest and save that one down. Then we're going to move the Walker booking up. So room 10's a ground floor room. And we're going to go to the internal booking notes. We're going to put ground floor room due to mobility. Do not move. And then I put my initials. And I'm going to put that in the guest profile notes as well. That way, the next time the guest makes a reservation, it's going to be on their guest profile. I'm then going to mark it as do not move, just to make sure that we don't move this guest by mistake. I'm then going to save that one down. Now, because you've already printed your arrival forms for these guests, you'll need to either amend the existing arrival form or reprint a new arrival form. We've now got the group booking arriving. Everything's going smoothly, but one of the guests, John Lang, also needs a downstairs room. Our big group for the day's arrived and the check-ins are going smoothly, but one of the guests, John Lang, needs a downstairs room. So he's currently in a twin room, and a queen twin room, and we can see that there's no other options for a queen twin room. Because it's just one adult, we can offer the guest a different room type, or we can also see if there's other queen twin rooms within the group that don't need a downstairs room. So to keep it simple, let's see if we've got any queen rooms. We're not changing the rate, and we've got room 1 available for this guest. That's going to be a downstairs room. We're then going to put internal booking notes, ground floor room due to mobility, and we're also going to add it to the profile so that next stay it shows up as well. We're then going to mark it as a do not move room and save that one down. So that task is complete. There's a second section to that request. One of the guests, James Lang, John's brother, is not able to come at all, but because it's the day of arrival, we're already inside the booking terms and condition cancellation window, so this guest is just going to be charged either way. Now, if we're to open up Mr. Lang's booking, we can edit the reservation individually, and we actually just want to cancel this booking out of the system, but we also want to charge for the night. So we're going to cancel the reservation. So James Lang, room 28, And we're going to send a cancellation confirmation email to the group. Because we're in the demo version, we don't have any templates, so we're going to close that one down. So now we've cancelled that guest, but we need to make sure that the group is still charged for his booking. So we're going to go into the group account, and we're going to put in room charge, and I'm going to update this one to James Lang and no show. Or we could put cancellation, and I'm going to put in the amount for that room night as well. So we've got 170 for the room night by the looks of it, and I'll add that entry in. So that means that when I check out the group, even though we've cancelled one of the reservations and a room charge wasn't posted automatically, the group will still be charged the correct amount and will still collect the right amount of revenue for our motel. So then we're going to save that one down. So we've now finished that one there, and we're moving into the evening and some of the final duties we've got to complete for the motel. One of our guests, Amy Chen, hasn't arrived yet. It's already 9 p.m. We've tried to get in contact with her to work out when she's coming or if she is still coming, but she's not been reachable. So we've got a few options here. The first step though is to charge her card for her stay. If she's staying for an extended period of time, based on your motel's terms and conditions, you might just charge her for one night. We can then send her a message with late arrival instructions. If she's booked through booking.com or Expedia, for example, you can also send a message through their online extranet. If she's booked through a third-party travel agent, you might reach out with an email and a message to the travel agent to let them know that we haven't been able to get a hold of Amy. As per her booking conditions, she is due to check in, and we've left the key out, and here are the instructions for her. This gives the most opportunity for her to use your accommodation. If she doesn't show up in the morning, we're then going to mark that booking as a no-show. So we're going to go into this reservation here. Going to click on room account, and we're going to click make payment, and we're going to make a payment for the 200 on the American Express card as requested, and yes, confirm. So now she's paid, and it's just a matter of us following up either tomorrow or with her travel agent to work out what's happened with that reservation. I'm going to save that one down. We've completed all of our general tasks for the shift. This is not reflecting an entire shift. We've got a lot of other minor tasks that we might complete. In this front desk training, we've tried to really show all of the different things that might pop up during the day around guest requests, cancellations, guest reviews, guest feedback, and how you might work on those with yourself and the team. Thank you very much for watching our video today on front desk training within the hospitality environment. I hope you've found it really helpful. If you have, please subscribe to our channel. If there's anything you're not sure about within the video or you want to touch on other topics, please drop a comment below.